How much sharing do people do, like through your API and then to other people's API? So how much is it like I took a picture with food spotting and I checked in with it on Foursquare, or I checked in on Foursquare and then I shared that to Twitter?
Yeah, I don't know the food spotting numbers. We were looking at the Twitter numbers the other day, and it's like, about 20% of the check-ins on Foursquare will go to Twitter, or about 20% of them will go to Facebook, and there's obviously some overlap there. And some people do it all the time. Like I like to push my stuff into Twitter because it like enables more random serendipitous stuff. And some people are like, nope, my graph on Foursquare is different than my graph on Facebook, and that's the way it's going to be. But I think there's a lot more opportunity for us to create more of that glue between services, and that's one of the things that drives me nuts. Like, users create the tips in the Foursquare system, like what to eat at a restaurant, what to order at a bar, how to chart out chart up the bartender and get a free drink. And like every time someone does one of your tips, like you should get a notification on it. Like when friends are nearby, you should be getting notification. When there's an interesting special, you should know about that, right? And so we got to find more ways of allowing users in one social graph to share data with other users. It's not right now. It's all about check-ins. This is another thing we're hoping to get to soon. But the only thing you really share are check-ins, and then people uncover your tips. But we want to make we need to make something that works more like the Facebook newsfeed. It's like you're just aware of what everyone is doing within the system.
And it's kind of weighted.
Yeah, because that's good for everyone, right? And so like we're getting good at the weighting. Like the magic behind the Explore tab is not that we can surface what's interesting. It's that we can weight it and say you're gonna like this taco place better than this taco place because you went to these 5 other taco places. And so if we can do it with places, we can do it with people, we can do it with tips, we can do it with experiences. Like
yeah, I find that's a much more strong incentive to check in now, is to make my recommendations more accurate, right?
Yeah. So
it's like a new generation of the kind of competing for the mayor stuff.
Yeah, I wonder if we could do that visually, where it's like, like 10 check-ins gets you like, C+ recommendations. 50 check-ins gets you B+ recommendations. And like once you're a regular user, they get better. I mean, that's what you see. Like the recommendations get better over time. I was in London a couple weeks ago for this talk, and like I don't know anything about London, but I've got enough friends that have gone back and forth between San Francisco and New York, and it's like, this is what your friends do in this neighborhood. And I'm like, this is awesome. It's like a guidebook that my friends wrote. I didn't have to ask them to write. It just happens to be on my phone, and it changes every time I turn the corner. And like that stuff is just, it's super powerful. Like no one's done stuff like that before. It's fun.
So I'm not exactly sure how to ask this, but the most commonly requested thing for you to talk about is what is the future of mobile and location? So that's a big enough question, but I guess bite off whatever chunk you want to bite off.
What is the future of mobile and location? This is self-serving. Like I think we are the future of mobile and location.
I wasn't meaning for it to be that easy.
I know. But like, listen, we've been doing this for like 10 years, and it started. Did anyone ever hear of or use Vindigo? Right, it's a couple. Thank you. It was like an app for Palm Pilots. Like no network, no color screen. People, you had to use a little stylus. No GPS. But trying to hack together things that would make cities easier to use for people. Way back in the day, like 2000 or so. And then we were doing it with Dodgeball, and then we did a whole bunch of experiments at grad school, and then we tried to do it at Google a little bit. And it's like, we've got this idea of like what this stuff is supposed to look like. And the analogy I use all the time is, you guys know Clippy, like the little paperclip guy from Microsoft Office? Like Clippy like shows up on your screen and annoys you. And he's like, hey, try to make a list. I'm like, nah, whatever. But Clippy has like the best intentions. Clippy wants to be your friend, he's trying to be helpful. And I think that we can make a version of Clippy that's not a pain in the ass, but he lives in your pocket. And he knows who your friends are. He knows who you hang out with. He knows the places you like. He knows you go to sushi 3 times a week. Maybe he even has access to your calendar. He knows which direction you're walking in. He knows the time of day. He knows you get coffee in the morning. He knows that you're walking fast or walking slow. And he's just listening for what's going on. And that's what we're trying to do with network sensor. Like a phone is just a network sensor. And Clippy is the guy that he's the master of the sensors. And
what does Clippy look like in the Foursquare world? Who's your mascot?
The little Mars bot. The robot in Explorer? She takes the things out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's called the Mars bot.
Okay.
Yeah. So
the Mars bot?
Yeah. The girl that designed it, our lead designer, her name is Mari, and she goes by Mars, and so we just call it the Mars bot.
Okay.
It's like inside baseball. But
yeah,
I
was worried I was supposed to know what that meant.
I don't know. Sorry about that. So listen, like for the longest time, I think the vision of the future was you walk by a Starbucks and you get pinged with a coupon for a latte, and it's going to be awesome. And I don't think that's what people want. you know. And I think now that we could do that, like I don't think people want that. But I think what people do want is like you're walking down the street at a time where you normally eat lunch, but you haven't stopped to eat lunch yet, and your phone buzzes and it's like, hey, that's the sandwich place that you read in the New York Times 3 weeks ago, and you just happen to be around the corner from it. That's what you want to do, right? Or you're in Paris. It's like, oh, this is the place where your buddy took that picture 2 years ago and left this note about, you know, getting engaged or whatnot. You know, and it's like these things that enable real world like serendipitous experiences. Like they just kind of happen. You know, the Clippy in your pocket can figure out when you overlap with those things. When your user profile and your user account and all the things that you've ever done in the real world overlap with a particular lat long, and it can buzz in your pocket and say, this moment in time at this place is important, and this is why it's important. And I don't know, that's the thing that we've been chasing forever, and I think that we're going to get to it pretty soon. So I think that's my argument for Foursquare being the future of mobile and location. Was it mobile and location or mobile?
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the other stuff I'm super psyched about is like everything NFC. You know, like, and you know, QR codes were I feel like were such a bust, like such a letdown. Mm-hmm. But like, yeah, I should be able to walk by a restaurant and like, you know, tap my phone up against it and be like, you know, and send that to a friend, add it to my Foursquare to-do list, you know, check in at that location, you know, get a tip back, which is the absolute best thing to order here. You know, mobile payment stuff I think is super hot. Like I really like what the Square guys are doing. I really like what the Venmo guys have been doing. And like all this stuff has been like the future for so long. It's like happening now. And there's probably a bunch of people in this room that are building it. And there's a bunch of people in New York that are building it. And it like, you know, it all happens in the next like 12 to 18 months, as everyone says, right?
It all happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, like now we have the technology to build the stuff that we've been talking about for all these years, you know? Like we have the social graph. We can get it from, you know, Facebook Connect. We have the Places graph, which is, you know, what the Foursquare API is, the Foursquare Places API is all about. We've got these phones that run GPS queries in the background. Like GPS doesn't last that long, but that's going to get better. And we've got a user community. Like we've got my mom understands what Twitter is supposed to be for, and like that's a big deal. You get a critical mass of like regular people. Like Chris Dixon calls them like the Muggles. Like the Muggles understand like what the rest of us nerds are using this stuff for, and that's a big change.
So give us a little bit of an update on Foursquare as a company. You guys, you're hiring, obviously. You have an office out here now? We
do, yeah. We're 56 people. We're based out of New York. I live in New York. And we have a 6-person office here. We were borrowing office space from the Square guys, and then they moved into their super office. And so we're downstairs in the old office. And we're just like, we've outgrown it. We're hiring as many people as we can. And so now I'm out here scoping new office space for that too. Can I ask a question? Like who's an engineer here? Yes? Are there female engineers in the room too? Really? Was one?
We got
in the
one.
Whole room? Okay, well you're the lucky winner because we were trying to hire our first female engineer. Yeah. Listen, here's the message I'm trying to get across is like we are hiring as many people as we can get, as many engineers as possible. We cannot hire them fast enough. We have an office in New York, we have an office in San Francisco, all the water you can drink. Foursquare.com/jobs, and we are looking for our first female engineer. So, as many as we can get, yeah. There will be a prize for the first one. I don't know what we haven't decided what it's going to be.
You can be mayor.
We'll send. It'll be a badge or some equivalent. Yeah, I'll draft up the legal lease after this. Foursquare.com/jobs.
Okay, so for the people you're trying to recruit these people in the audience.
Yes.
Tell them why. So what's Foursquare going to go big now? Is Foursquare a legit big company? Are you guys raising more money? Can they trust that they'll have a job next year? Or are you just going to go get absorbed by Google?
First of all, we opened the office here because we can't hire enough people in New York, right? So it's like, you know, we think, hey, it's right in the middle of Facebook and Google and Twitter, and people seem to be moving in that triangle, so let's just plop down in the middle of that triangle and see how we do. I don't know, like, I didn't think that we were going to, you know, when we were pitching Fred Wilson and those guys on the Series A, they're like, well, when are you going to hit 1 million users? I'm like, 1 million users will never hit 1 million users. That's crazy talk.
You said that or they said that?
Well, I said that. I was like, 1 million users? Like, we busted our ass with Dodgeball, and I don't think we got to 100,000. And, you know, it happened really quickly for us. And I think it's like the timing is right for this stuff. And it's not just the timing is right for the product, because it's like the timing is right for the thing to work as a business. Like the merchants are hungry for it. We already see that it's working. Like we see, we hear feedback from Starbucks like, yeah, we do these specials. It drives lots of check-ins. The check-ins are basically ad impressions. It gets people, it makes people aware that like their friends go to Starbucks and their friends stop at this store and their friends stop at another store. And they're tools for merchants that merchants haven't had before. It's a big deal, and there's big data behind it. It's like all this stuff has happened on the web, 10 years of this stuff to get to this point where there's a whole generation of startups that get to take advantage of like the infrastructure that we've all created. So
that wasn't really an answer to my question.
Oh, so the answer was what happens to Foursquare? I don't know. We look at we look at what's happening in New York. It's like we are running out of office space. We need to get more office space. We need to get more office space here. We're going to continue growing. I don't know how many millions of users will be by next year. It's 1 million a month. I'm sure it accelerates. Like you can probably do the math. I think it turns into like one of the big sustainable businesses. Like we look at, we've been lucky enough to be grouped into that. Like follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Foursquare. And it's like, how did we get in that sentence, right? Because, Twitter is, they're rolling with like 300 million, and I don't know.
200 million registered.
And Facebook is rolling with like 600 million, and here we are with like, almost 10 million users. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, we're in that. We're in that to stay. And it's like the people that are throwing
I feel like you guys knocked out YouTube. For a while, it was like.
What do you mean knocked them out?
They were like, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
Oh, yeah. Well, sometimes there's room for 4. Okay. So, and Tumblr gets in there sometimes too, right? But Tumblr in the house. People like Tumblr? I like Tumblr. Yeah. All right. Hey.
When it works.
Everyone
heckles for Tumblr. In the Okay, so if you guys do become this big company, and you get to dream and do something wacko, what's like your autonomous cars project? What do you want to do when Foursquare is huge?
That is not related to Foursquare at all?
Well, that is in this like big, crazy sense that will only make sense to everyone else later.
Actually, that's a good question because it's the first time I ever got it. I really have no idea. We're the founders in the room and the entrepreneurs in the room, like you guys probably know this, like all you kind of do is eat, drink, and sleep your inbox and like the current 500 fires that are going on in the office. And you're like, what's today? And what city am I in? And what's happening 2 hours from now? So to be honest, I haven't had a chance to think long term about what happens after this. Mm-hmm. I definitely have problems that I want solved, which is like TV sucks and someone needs to fix that. Which is like
TV.
Yeah, well, yeah, I love Boxy. I want to see that stuff get better.
Boxy.
Boxy, you know Boxy?
Yeah. Sorry, I said boxing.
No, yeah, I love boxing too.
We're going to improve the sport of boxing.
No. It's things like that. Like I love the mobile payment space. I love the idea of software that can sniff out the people that are in this room. It's I want my phone to buzz and be like, hey, guess what? There's 100 people in this room. 3 of them went to college with your brother. 3 of them you need to meet for business reasons, and 6 people you definitely need to stay away from. Right? I want that. Like I want that type of radar. That like anywhere that you go, and I think Foursquare might play a little bit of a role in that. But like there's that idea of augmented reality. This thing like, oh yeah, you're holding your phone up. Like that's a great idea in practice. Like augmented reality, augmented memory. Like no one's gonna do this. Like that's not gonna catch on. But that idea of poor man's augmented reality, which is basically like Clippy. It's like Clippy for exploring neighborhoods, Clippy for figuring out who's in a room, Clippy for figuring what to do next. All those things I think are interesting. Just ways to augment the way that you just experience the real world.
Do you guys have questions for Dennis?